You ever stop and wonder why the people doing some of society's most important work, I'm talking about caring for our kids, supporting the most vulnerable, protecting our planet, are so often paid the least? It's this strange, frustrating thing called the nonprofit pay paradox. It's this massive clash between a really noble mission and the basic human need to earn a living wage. In this explainer, we're not just going to talk about the problem, we're going to walk through a real, practical guide for how we can start to fix it.
This quote, wow, it just gets right to the bone of the issue, doesn't it? The idea of a self-exploiting workforce. That's not just some dramatic phrase, it's a reality check. The whole system is often built on the passion of its people, expecting them to just run on fumes, to do more and more with less and less until they just burn out. That is the real human cost of this paradox, and it's exactly why we need to be talking about this right now.
And look, this isn't just a vibe or feeling people have. The data is absolutely stark. When you ask nonprofits what the #1 reason is that they struggle to hire and keep good people, it's salary competition. It's not the stress, it's not even burnout that's at the top of the list. It's cold, hard cash. Over 72% of organizations say this is their main barrier. That tells you everything. It's not just about wanting to do good anymore, it's about being able to afford to do good.
Okay, so the problem is crystal clear. But before we can even think about solving it, we have to get really precise with our language. Let's decode what pay inequity actually means. Because, let's be honest, good intentions alone are not going to fix a problem this deep. So you hear these two terms thrown around all the time, right? Equal pay and pay equity. And they sound similar, but they are worlds apart. Equal pay is really the baseline. It's about giving everyone the same compensation for doing the same work. Simple. But pay equity, that goes a huge step further. It recognizes that people are starting from different places, they face unique barriers. So equity isn't about giving everyone the exact same thing, it's about making sure everyone gets what they actually need to succeed and thrive. I really like this piggy bank visual because it shows just how complex this whole thing is. You see, pay equity isn't just one number on a spreadsheet. It's a whole system of different factors all feeding into it. Where you live, what the cost of labor is there, what the actual cost of living is, not to mention historical pay gaps and how transparent the whole process is. All of these things feed into whether someone's pay is truly equitable. You can't just fix one little piece and call it a day.
And when we talk about those pay gaps, well, the data is just sobering. For every single dollar a non-Hispanic white man earns, you can literally watch a compounding loss for everyone else. A black woman earns just 69 cents, a mom earns 74 cents, and a Latina woman earns only 57 cents for that same dollar. This isn't a theory, this is a documented financial reality that shows how these gaps get deeper and deeper when you layer on different identities.
Now, let's zoom out for a second and look at the bigger economic picture here. This chart shows something pretty startling. Back in February of 1973, the real hourly wage, when you adjust for inflation, was $23.24. Now, fast forward to March 2019, nearly 50 years later. What do you think it was? The exact same, $23.24. The economy grew, productivity went through the roof, but for most workers, their paychecks just stood still.
And here's the other side of that coin. While wages were staying completely flat, the cost of just living has been on this relentless upward climb. It's more than doubled since 1999 alone. This is the squeeze. This is the financial vice that so many people are in. You've got stagnant wages on one side and skyrocketing costs on the other. It creates a personal financial crisis, and it's especially tough for folks in these mission-driven jobs.
Okay, so we've got a pretty good handle on the problem. So how does an organization actually start to find a cure? Well, it all begins with taking a really hard look in the mirror. It starts with a pay equity audit.
To make this feel a little more real, let's follow a fictional operations director. We'll call her Issa. She's noticed that people are leaving her nonprofit left and right, and she wants to get to the bottom of it. Now, Issa's not an HR expert, but she knows she needs data. So she decides to conduct her organization's very first pay equity assessment.
So Issa's first step is super simple, but really powerful. She just plots every single employee's salary on a chart from the lowest to the highest, and this creates what's called a pay curve. Now, at first glance, you might look at this and think, okay, that doesn't seem too alarming. It slopes up, which is kind of what you'd expect, but data without context, well, it can be incredibly misleading. Because then comes the gut punch. Just watch what happens when Issa overlays one single crucial piece of data, the local cost of living. Bam! Suddenly, the entire story changes. You can see instantly that the vast majority of her team is being paid well below what it actually costs to live in their own community.
And this table right here puts the hard numbers to that shocking visual. The administrative assistant is making over $36,000 less than the cost of living. A caseworker is almost 30 grand in the red. Look at that. Only the executive director is actually above the line. For most of the staff, this isn't just a small gap, it's a chasm.
So having the data, that's one thing. But actually doing something about it? That means getting leadership on board. So, how in the world do you convince a budget-conscious board that paying people more isn't just an expense, but a critical, strategic investment in the mission?
This is where a framework called the talent value chain comes in. It's key. It makes the business case by showing a direct line from investing in your people to achieving your mission. It's a chain reaction. Higher investment leads to better morale. Better morale enables stronger performance. And stronger performance, well, that drives greater community impact. You're not just increasing a line in the budget. You're literally fueling the engine of your organization.
And the foundation for that investment is something called a pay philosophy. And no, this is not just corporate jargon. It's a formal statement. Think of it like a constitution for compensation that basically says, here's what we value as an organization, and here is exactly how our pay is going to reflect those values.
And when you have a clear pay philosophy, real tangible things start to happen. It builds trust because now everyone understands the why behind their paycheck. It makes sure decisions are fair, not just based on who you know. It becomes the guide for hiring and promotions. And ultimately, it creates what's called a pro-talent culture. It becomes the North Star for every single decision you make about your people.
All right, so you've done the audit, you've got leadership on board. Now for the good part, the treatment plan. This is where we actually build a compensation system that is transparent and, actually fair.
This is what a structured system actually looks like in practice. It's a pay grid with salary bands. And what it does is it takes all the guesswork and bias out of compensation. A housekeeper eye knows exactly what their pay range is. If they get more skills, they could become a housekeeper too and move into that higher range. It creates so much clarity for employees, predictability for the budget, and a visible pathway for people to grow.
And this is crucial. This moves us beyond that one, single, often biased annual performance review as the only way to get a raise. A fair system has multiple, transparent ways to earn more. Things like annual cost of living adjustments, just to keep up with reality, longevity rewards for people who show their commitment, pay bumps for learning new skills, and, of course, recognition for when a job's responsibilities really do grow.
This right here is such an important reality check. There's this tendency for decision makers to get totally paralyzed trying to find the perfect solution. But the truth is, the perfect model doesn't exist. This kind of work is a journey, and it happens in small steps and iterations. The real goal is to just start, learn as you go, and keep improving. It's all about progress, not perfection.
So we have covered a ton of ground, from the deep-seated problem to the diagnosis all the way to a treatment plan. Let's boil it all down to the key takeaways that you could really hang on to.
First, that pay paradox? It's not a myth. It is a real and damaging force holding organizations back. Second, a data-driven audit, especially one that compares salaries to the actual local cost of living, is what tells the true story. Third, you absolutely have to frame this as a strategic investment in your mission, not just another cost. Fourth, build a transparent system with a clear philosophy and structure. And finally, always remember, this is a journey of continuous improvement, not a one-and-done fix. So we're going to leave you with this thought. Remember, a perfect model is a myth. This work happens in small, iterative steps. The real question isn't, how do we build a flawless system overnight? It's much simpler than that. It's, what is the very first manageable thread your workplace could pull to start unraveling this problem?